Hello everyone! Today we are going to talk about the 7 steps to reading a graphic. This is an important part of effectively reading nonfiction articles and your textbooks. So, what are graphics? Graphics can be found everywhere. Graphics can be found in magazines, newspapers, on websites, and throughout your textbooks. The term graphics includes any information presented in a diagram, table, chart, or graph that accompanies the text you are reading. Graphics may re-emphasize the material you are reading, or they may add to it by providing supporting information about the topic at hand. Today we are going to talk about the 7-step strategy for reading graphics as demonstrated in the book Teaching Reading in Social Studies and Science and Math by Laura Robb. The 7 steps require the reader to methodically analyze each part of the graphic. Let's look at an example together and work through the steps. Please look at the first graphic in your handout. Step 1 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy is to look at the graphic and read the title. Think about the title's meaning and what information that gives us right off the bat about the topic in the graphic. The title of our first example is In and Out of Cuba, and each graph within the whole graphic has a title, so we should pay attention to those as well. The top graph is titled Cubans Entering the U.S. The bottom graph is titled Tourism in Cuba. We can draw the conclusions from just this information that we're probably going to be examining the relationship between Cuba and the United States in some facet. Now, let's move on to step 2 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy. Step 2 says that we need to read all of the text in the graphic. This graphic provides a lot of written context for the 2 graphs that accompany it. This information is vital to understanding how the graphs are related to one another and the information in the article. Please pause the video while you read the text and examine the information in the charts. Now, let's move on to step 3. Step 3 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy directly relates to step 2, so make sure you have read the information. Now we have to think about the information and connect it to what we know already, or what we read in the article or chapter this graphic accompanied. We read the article in conjunction with this graphic previously, so you should think back to what you remember about Cuba from the article. Note, this article and graphic are from a few months after Castro's death. The time period of this information is also important to keep in mind when thinking about the information presented. We now know a little more about the relationship and how it has moved forward since then, but at the time of the publication, things were still very uncertain. Now, step 4 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy. This step 4 asks you to ask yourself a question. What is important from this graphic? Ask yourself, if you had to give your buddy a 10-second summary because he forgot to do his homework, not that I recommend this, but what details would you highlight? This question will help you recognize the most important information from the graphic, the main idea, if you will. Generally, the graphs accompanied with the text indicate that there has been a relatively steady incline in tourism in Cuba and Cubans entering the United States since about 2011. This graphic does not provide an explanation for this increase, but we can consult the accompanying article for more information. Step 5 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy is to ensure that you understand all of the words. Use the strategies and tools you have to do this. Use context clues, refer to a friend, refer to the accompanying text. Make sure that you understand the tough words so that you can understand all the parts of the graphic. A difficult word that I noted in the passage was regime. Using context clues from the sentence, "For years the U.S. has accepted Cubans fleeing their nation's harsh communist regime, I can determine an approximate meaning of the word regime. I know communism is a form of government, so I know that regime must mean something related to government." Step 6 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy is to connect this information to your life and experiences and to the issues and problems facing your community and your world. Consider how this information could affect you or your community. How could it affect the life of someone from somewhere else around the world? In the case of this graphic, I do not have any immediate personal connections. I do not personally know anyone from Cuba, but I have read a lot about refugees from all over the world and know that it is a difficult and trying situation to endure. I also know that tourism is an important part to help economies, and a strong economy can help the people who are living there. I also know from the article that some people are not thrilled about Castro's death and are concerned about the direction that their country will now take. I can empathize with the people of Cuba who are facing a turbulent and unsettled time in their government. So even though I am not directly affected, I can think about how those who are affected may feel. By doing this when analyzing a graphic, it helps us to draw important and lasting connections to the information. Step 7 of the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy is to paraphrase what you learned from the graphic, or sum it up. This time, your buddy forgot to do his homework, but you have 2 minutes until the bell to tell him about it. So, explain in detail what you learned from this graphic to help him out. This graphic highlighted to me that tourism has been progressively increasing in Cuba, which has helped its economy. I also know that the number of Cubans leaving Cuba for the United States has increased during that time as well. The text in the graph lets me know that the relationship between Cuba and the United States has been shifting, and I can infer that this shift may continue after the death of their communist leader. It is key to thoroughly examine and delve into all of the information that's included in a graphic. Ignoring this information is not an option. It will either highlight important information that you should thoroughly understand, or it will provide information that will help deepen your understanding of the topic. Do not ignore the graphics. Use the 7 steps to reading a graphic strategy. It works. Remember, step 1, read the title and any graph titles and think about what it could be. Step 2, read all of the text and examine all of the information. Step 3, think about the information and how it relates to the chapter or article. Step 4, ask yourself, what is important about this? Step 5, ensure your understanding of all the words in the graphic. Step 6, connect your information to your life, your community, and the world. Step 7, paraphrase your learning. Now, try these steps with the next graphic in the handout. As you review the handout, consult the article that accompanies it. Happy reading!